About 8 of 10 European companies operating in the Philippines expect trade and investment activity to increase over the next 4 years. That is according to the European Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines in its latest business sentiment survey report, even as governance issues stemming from an infrastructure corruption scandal weighs. Well, with us now for more is Lars Wittig, the Vice President of the ECCP and Senior Vice President for Asia Pacific at IWG. It's good seeing you again, Lars, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right, so let's take it from investment pledges for November. That dropped 48%. How are you now aligning that with the sentiment survey that you just conducted amongst European investors here?
Well, basically, the sentiment is very strong still, and that is based on the fact that the businesses are still showing very good performance. In the most recent year, 2/3 of all respondents have done improved, better business results, and half of the 2/3 of the respondents basically said that the improvement in business performance in the Philippines was higher than in the rest of the region.
To what would you attribute that resilience? Because we've had these corruption allegations that's now showing up in the data, and that survey that you conducted was about the same time that the data started to show these corruption allegations.
Yes, and no doubt it is raising concerns. It's being watched carefully. It's something that we're all very much aware of, including the foreign community and those considering to further invest. Nevertheless, when you look at the measurements and the safeguards that have been put in place at this point, assuming that we will see more like what already has come from BSP, what already have been demonstrated by BIR, where they have put on hold all field audits, then we need to see more of that, and then we need to see a speed in infrastructure investments, something that obviously also have been slowed down, hurting from all the concerns after the flood scandals.
Well, sentiment is one. The other is the actual investments and also expansion plans. So to what extent did that affect the forward-looking plans of European businesses here?
The expansion plans are still intact, so they are still ongoing.
For all sectors?
Basically across all sectors and across the country. This survey, keep in mind, is across all sectors, all industries, but also it's national. So, I mean, it's not just the talk of town in Manila. There are many opportunities, there are many fundamentals that remain very strong. We just have to ensure that the safeguards continue to be implemented for, in lack of a better word, whatever, reset that is currently in the works. And then I actually think that we can go a jolly season, but also a year ahead. Nobody
hit pause during these past few months, hitting pause on investment pledges or investment plans, expansion plans?
We have not seen that. What is existing is still going strong, and there are still success stories in sustainable energy, green energy investment, offshore wind farms, etc. Demonstrate and prove that when the government open the doors and improves on the ease of doing business, then things also happen.
Well, let me pick up on that reset that you mentioned, because there are many forms of resets when it comes to escalating political risk. And I know that you've just come from Bangladesh, and you've had some experience in Sri Lanka. Both countries have undergone real big major resets that have impacted business confidence and even pulling out of your own business at IWG. And give us some context on how we compare with these kinds of countries.
Yes, I'm glad you asked. First of all, yes, I'm regional in my day job, so to speak, with IWG Reaches, Flexible Workspace. And one thing that all countries have in common, even with my home country, Denmark, is when you go and speak to people on the ground, what we all have in common is we are quite cynical about our own government, our own people, our own market. I guess that's natural for all, but what I perhaps can share a little bit today is the perspective when I compare the different markets. And while we feel that it is a big burden what is going on right now in the Philippines, much worse has happened historically or in very recent times in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. In Bangladesh, there was a very violent revolution in July last year. The Prime Minister fled, has just been sentenced to death in absentia. And from my many meetings and conversations in Dhaka, they're very positive. Most of them are also ready to move forward, but only after the hopefully successful elections happening in February. So they are like in the process, in the eye of the storm. Sri Lanka, for example, the peak of their storm that was in 2022. Government fled. MIF came in and took controls, inflation 70%, lack of medicine, fuel, power, what you name it, they were lacking it. They are also recovering very strongly. It's not where it was before, but it's coming back, and I'm very happy that I'm there, we are there with IWG. And then there are the markets that are in the extreme other end of the scale, where corruption is the least. I can mention three immediately, the number 1, 2, 3 in the world. Philippines is not among them. We are simply too populated. I would say trust comes with small populations. It can be controlled and managed. It is Singapore, it's New Zealand, where I also went recently, and it's Denmark, my native country.
Trust, very important point that you make, and the recovery expectations that you have on the survey. You've made a mention of the major reset and where the Philippines stands. You're not pulling out, you haven't hit pause, but what needs to happen to make sure that investments from the European community continue and even grow well into 2026?
What we need to see is a strong reset, very strong safeguards being implemented. We're only seeing the initial few. And what we need to see is that they very quickly get the momentum going again on the infrastructure, because right now, the less concrete that's being poured, the more of a slowdown in the GDP. But overall, the fundamentals are very healthy. The GDP, the BSP financials, government deficit, everything is actually extremely healthy. We measure very well by any global standards. And what again, in my day business, we rely on local investors, and we've never signed so many deals with local investors as we have done this calendar year. Actually, we have signed for 50 new locations, each $1 million plus US dollar local investments.
And that's even after the corruption scandals.
Absolutely. This is ongoing because this is national. And this is a type of business that serves multiple industries. So there's plenty of momentum. Look at where our revenue is coming otherwise. It's coming from overseas remittances, just like Bangladesh, by the way. Second, BPOs. And here we are different than many other countries because BPO revenues, there's no real cost of goods, right? Whereas Bangladesh, it's garment, 60% of their exports, actually you can deduct import in order to make the goods. So very strong in that regard. Very young population. We are at a sweet point the next 20 years. The population will still increase, but fertility rate is down to only 2.0, which means that we are going to have a booming productive population, which is very much needed. We have the lowest average age of any country that I do business in, only 26. Increasing, but it's increasing everywhere. Vietnam, it's already over 30.
We got about a minute to go. I wanted you to give a message from the European community. If you were to speak to the political leadership now, what would be the key message in the immediate?
We need to see the action. We need to see the safeguards. It has to be tangible. It has to be felt. It has to be shown. And then, of course, I know they will do this. They need to continue. They are going to be in Brussels in January. The free trade agreement is going to be pivotal in order to further the economy here and the sentiment of the European investors and for the mutual benefit of mutual trade.
All right, well, lots to look forward to in 2026. Lars, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy.
Keep us up to speed on the developments.
My pleasure.
Lars Wittig of ECCP joining us.